Hi, Anne. How are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Uh, your hair it just gets better and better every time we do this. Your hair looks absolutely sensational. If I had more hair, I'd say who does it so I could go and hire them.
Yeah, I actually get a cut at the student salon at Aveda.
Well, somebody's doing a great job.
Yeah, because because it's great because like it takes a while, but the instructors are like constantly supervising, so you wind up getting like a really good haircut. You just it's where or not you want to spend the time because it does
Fantastic.
take a while. Yeah.
Good, 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 good. Okay, so since the last time I saw you, the year has begun. I, I mean, obviously, the year outside of film noir is tumultuous to say the least.
Yeah.
Uh, so there, duly noted. It's like you can't do anything without noting how bizarre the world has become because otherwise it looks like you don't care. And I just know that we care, but people aren't tuning in to hear us go on about that. So,
Yeah.
um, but Noir City, the first Noir City of 2025, is in the books and was a smashing success. I know we both got a little under the weather during the festival. I
Yeah.
saw you there at the beginning, and then that was it.
Yeah, my cat Emily developed a UTI and it was severe enough that I had to pill her every 8 hours, which meant I couldn't go to the festival. And then so I was able to go like opening night, and I've been having to come home from my day job at noon to pill her. So
Oh boy,
it's kind of been exhausting. But she finished up her antibiotics, so hopefully everything will be okay. She's sleeping on the couch. People might be able to see her.
I can see her hindquarters from here. Yes.
But I
Oh,
really liked well, I went opening night, which was fun to see everybody, but I really liked the matinee on Saturday. I went to the second film. What's not is it Sleeping City?
yes, the
Listen, you
Sleeping
sleeping the
City was the
Sleeping
second
City.
film. Kiss of
And
Death, and then the Sleeping City.
right. So Sleeping City, I thought that was great. I had never seen it before. I really liked it. I really liked that it was, I liked the location work was amazing because it's all filmed in the Bellevue Hospital in New York. And it starts with a bang, so to speak. You know, you're like, okay,
Yeah, it's quite
you know,
shocking for the time. Yeah, that
yeah,
opening scene.
it was very Sam Fuller kind of opening scene.
Very
And
much so. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought Colleen Gray was excellent in it. I really, I'm guessing this is probably was one of her favorite roles. Would be my
Uh,
guess.
she, it's funny, she didn't talk too much about it,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, she always thought, she was never quite good enough in everything.
Oh,
So I'm sure if I mentioned it, her response was, "Yeah, I wasn't so good at
oh, she was
that."
excellent in it,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
that's the first time I've shown that one up here in the Bay. I think I showed it a few years ago in LA, but yeah. So anyway, it was you know, and speaking of cats, you got to get uh Charlotte kind of I'll have to have Tizzy talk to Charlotte about how to stay chill because I ended up I on I think it was the first Saturday I had to bring Tizzy with me to the theater,
Yeah.
and she ended up actually making an appearance on stage at the late show that night.
I'm bummed I missed that because someone posted a photo and repost I reposted the photo on yeah, I think our Twitter account was where that one showed up. So that photo is somewhere on our Twitter feed. But I was shocked when I saw it. How did Disney get on stage?
uh I can't really remember, except I was feeling so bad for her because she was just backstage the whole day, and it's
Oh,
not warm backstage, and she was just in her carrier. She came out a little bit and kind of hung around we have a little table and office set up back there, but that was pretty amusing. Fortunately, that was just because it was a super long day, and Kathleen wasn't home. She was working, and so I had to take Tiz to the to the show. Anyway, let's get rolling here. I know we got some. I suspect we have some good questions this time around. You want to go first or me?
I'll go first. Oh, did we get the final dates from NOIR City Hollywood?
It starts on the 20th of March, and it's going to go Thursday, the 20th. Then that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then there is no show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday from whatever that is. It ends on March 30th. So 29th, 20th, 27th to the 30th and the 20th to the 23rd.
Okay. And we
So
will have, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
and it's pretty much well, we're still finalizing the schedule. It's pretty much the same program that we had in Oakland, with the noticeable exception of the opening night. I mean, I don't know what this is that we do, but it's not like a public announcement of the schedule, so people shouldn't treat it that way.
Right.
But we're trying to arrange to have a nitrate screening of Roadhouse as the opening night film. And then we're working on a program of neo-noir films for the afternoons on the weekends that it's just kind of a special thing. And if I'm hoping it works out, because it would mean we have some pretty cool special guests. So that's where that's at, but more to come.
And great. And nothing's final until it's up on the website, guys. Just so you know, nothing is final until then.
That is correct. But
because
out of all that verbiage I just spewed, the important thing is it starts on the 20th of March and it ends on the 30th of March. But don't make plans for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because that nothing will be happening. So there you go.
Okay. So our first question today is from, hold on a second. Let me get up a little so I can actually see the question. All right, guys. Cinema lost one of its truly unique and visionary artists in David Lynch. The depth of grief in both the filmmaking community and in cinephiles around the world has been palpable and heartfelt. I am heartened by how quickly memories and David's legacy have brought smiles out of tears, even for David's extended family. I wonder what your thoughts are on David Lynch's art and filmography, especially his presence and achievement in neo-noir such as Blue Velvet and Noir elements in other films.
Well, it was fun. Were you there at Noir City when I did my little salute to David Lynch?
No.
Yeah, I actually came as David Lynch. I mean, I don't have the hair, obviously, but he had that fabulous uniform that he wore. The white shirt buttoned all the way up with the black sport coat and the whole thing. But yeah, I think it was shocking, and I can't recall another filmmaker of this generation whose passing has inspired such an outpouring, which is interesting, given that he was so outside the mainstream. But he kind of made all of that more acceptable in the mainstream, so in that respect, I would say that he's probably the most influential filmmaker in America in the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, I mean, there's television before Twin Peaks and there's television after Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I mean, and it influenced so much, not just everybody talks about the surrealism and wow, what does it all mean? But just the fact that you didn't have to do linear storytelling was just revolutionary for television, that people followed along. It still blows my mind that David Lynch got nominated for an Oscar for Mulholland Drive as best director. It's like, how do you explain that?
It's about Hollywood.
Yeah.
Anything about Hollywood. Well, look at the substance. Let's talk about the substance. It's a body horror film
about Hollywood.
About Hollywood, and I expected to get nominated, but that film got nominated in like 5 major categories. I was not expecting that.
I thought she was going to ride the wave of sentiment, the comeback wave,
Yeah.
But I really did not expect that movie to be nominated for, and that's not a judgment at all. It's just like, wow,
No,
that's interesting because horror, you know, doesn't get nominated. It's like comedy; it doesn't get nominated for awards. You know, just
yeah.
straight drama, and especially if there's like some kind of message or something attached to it. That's what Hollywood's going to vote for.
Yeah.
But anyway, the David Lynch thing, you cannot overstate his influence. But what I think is so fascinating and what really uh because I kind of did an immersion back into all of his work uh after I learned that he had died, and it's so much more than just being a filmmaker. I mean, he was such a visual artist. There's so much work that he left behind, and I just really, really admire that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's more than just noir. I mean, clearly there's noir stuff elements in his work. It's pretty obvious which movies they are. Um, but it's really beyond that in a sense. So anyway, yeah, I was sorry to see him go, but these days, you know, as I get older, my attitude is just like, wow, good thing he got to do as much as he did.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
that's the way I look at
he got to do a tremendous amount of work. Like it is really impressive the amount of work that he got done. I mean, I assume his films made money or they wouldn't keep investing in them, you know, and I assume that he wasn't an extravagant director. That would be my guess, you know, that he was good on the, you know, not bloating things. I mean, his films look great, but they were never like, you know,
Well,
epic
I
kind of
think
things, you
it
know, and
seems to me he
yeah,
always approached them like tactily, like an
yeah,
artist, you know,
yeah,
like they feel
exactly.
handcrafted, you
Yes.
know, especially when you get to stuff like Inland Empire. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's a home movie. Uh,
Yeah. It's very Cassavetes-esque,
yeah.
you know.
And the thing that blows my mind about David Lynch is just how he, you know, some people shake it up and are disruptive and are in terms of art,
Yeah.
uh, and they do it angrily.
Yeah.
And as dark and as weird and perverse as Lynch's stuff was, you never sense that he was an angry person who was doing this kind of shake it up the status quo out of some, you know, disgust or anger or, you know, arrogance as an artist. He seemed to just be having fun. He's, you know,
Yeah, and I think also like with his characters, I think he kind in a way this kind of reminds me of what Almodovar is like this too, that even like when his characters are doing bad things, they're still very human. Like I don't feel like he had a dark view of the human race. Like terrible things happen in his movies because terrible things happen in real life, but he didn't seem to have sort of like Lars von Trier's has, where it's, oh, come on, you know, there are
yeah,
some decent people too, you know, whereas it felt like in Blue Velvet with Kyle MacLachlan's character, you know, when she asked him to hit her and you see how much that like disturbs him. Like
yes.
yeah, and that those kind of things, you know, and I think that's a real element of his film is like terrible things happen and there's real evil, but there's also like good too, you
Yeah, I
know.
agree. Well, I think that his theme is, you know, how can you possibly maintain innocence in the face of evil?
Yeah.
Seems to me that that's what every story he told was essentially about, and that seemed to be the overriding theme of his work, is just kind of keeping that darkness at bay. Like how do you do that, you know? And um it's a pretty all-encompassing subject for an artist, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um
But I think that's one of the things that made him someone really interesting because he was really taking that on. And also, I mean, just because his films just looked incredible too. I mean, he had incredible visual style and yeah, I mean, It's funny. It's just weird because I still remember my friend and I went to see Blue Velvet. We saw it on like $3 night, like just like the cheap night. It was probably a Tuesday, and like people walked out. It's like wow.
Yeah,
And there is something like really great when you're watching a film and like people walk out, and you're like,
sure.
okay, well, this
Because,
is this
but
because
how
it's really triggering
fascinating is
something
it
that
that he did that, and he, obviously he knew the reaction those early films like Eraserhead and even Dune, the reaction this stuff was going to get, and he just that's what I mean. Like his perseverance to me was just based on his belief in his art and not in his defiance or his anger that the mainstream didn't get him and didn't embrace him, because he just kept going. He kept doing the same thing until finally, astoundingly, somebody at ABC thought it was a good idea to put Twin Peaks on the air. And
God
and
bless
that
them.
and that changed everything. I mean, that
Yeah.
changed the entire culture.
Yeah.
Uh,
You
and
know,
and
that's kind of one of those things too. I just want to kind of point out, people don't like understand how important producers are. You know what I mean? Because someone
tell me
did do
about it.
that. If a
Yeah.
producer did it,
Yeah,
someone
somebody greenlit it and
greenlit,
then
and
they
then
got
someone
scared
greenlit
to
it.
death, and then they shut it down,
Yeah,
right? Because it didn't have its proper ending. But
yeah,
that's the other thing that makes David Lynch so mystical to me in some regards, is like there's something in that first season of Twin Peaks, if I recall, where Dale Cooper says something about it'll all be revealed in 25 years.
yeah,
There's some, and then it is. And
yeah,
then somehow David Lynch gets invited back to do it again
yeah,
25 years later. And there's this other completely bizarre, inexplicable show that emerges that somehow ends up making sense,
yeah.
and yeah, yeah, here's the thing. How many filmmakers have tried to do what he does, and how
Yeah.
much influence do you see? I mean, I think every other show that I watch on television, I say to Kathleen, oh well, this is very Lynchian.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're all, like that now. I mean, people have taken so much from him. Like, at least this is the Lynch sequence,
Yeah.
in the film.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. And I just want to say
uh,
one, two thing. When I saw Fire Walk with Me, my husband at the time and I went back to the car and I burst into tears and I sobbed for like so long. And like a security guard came over, was kind of concerned, like, but that film really moved me. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like that film doesn't get enough credit about showing the effect of sexual abuse on a young woman,
yeah,
especially in incest. And it's not like there's also this Adam Egoyan's The Sweet Hereafter, which I also think is an
right,
excellent film.
right. That is a
And I
great
mean,
film.
I get people get caught up on the other things about it, but that was kind of one of the things that is just like people don't talk about that still. And you really see the effect that it had on Laura,
Yeah.
and I think that that was, people, it's just odd to me that people don't really talk about that because that was really just something that you still don't really see that explored seriously, you
It,
know.
it is such a disturbing film. I watched it again recently, and it's just a tough film. Again, something that's like inexplicable that got made. I mean, it was so clearly a reaction to the fact that Twin Peaks, the rug was pulled out from under Twin Peaks, and he never got to delve as deeply into this as he wanted to. And then having this opportunity was just so bizarre. But the film is just inexplicable.
I mean, just the scene where she just is outside, she like burrs herself under the bush.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, 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 yeah. When she sees her dad leaving the house that morning, yeah, it is a deeply disturbing movie, but it's so weird because you know, who else has done that? Who else has gone that far in exploring that? And just it's such a horror movie,
Hmm.
but it's so true to these characters. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it is a terrifying film.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure that I've ever, like I said, I just was in my car just crying. I mean, and that's really, it was just very affecting. I just, yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting because he makes these films in such a way that if you check out because it's like this doesn't make any sense, he gives you that escape valve. It's like if because I'm sure for some people it like you it all makes perfect sense. Like I understand exactly what's happening in this movie, but other people can just leave it like I don't get
Yeah.
it, and part of me thinks that's just a fear factor that enters into it. Like, man, this because his he has the ability visually to just take you instantly to these dark places, and it's like the alarm bells go off for some people. And anyway, uh yeah, there is nobody that will replace David Lynch.
Yeah. I
Okay,
want to
so
rewatch Mulholland Falls. I haven't watched that in a really long time.
Mulholland Drive, you mean?
Mulholland Drive, excuse me. I haven't watched that in a really long time. I
I
should watch
watch
that
it.
again.
I probably watch that movie, well, at the very least once a year.
Yeah, I know that you're a
Once a,
really huge
yeah.
fan of it. Oh,
If I ever taught a course, like a college course, it would be on that film, and I think we could probably do 8 to 10 weeks just on that film, just deconstructing and reassembling that film and all the whys and wherefores and how does this compute and everything. I mean, it's just that movie is endlessly fascinating to me. I'm always finding new stuff in it. Okay, I'm the next question is from David, and he says, is there a possibility, and you keep doing this to me, is there a possibility you would ever come to New York City for one of your presentations? I would absolutely love to see one of them. Well, says David. Thanks, David. It's interesting. He says to see one of your presentations. I have done presentations in New York and probably will again. But if by presentation you mean a film festival, I'm going to say flat out at this point the answer is no. That will not be happening in New York for various reasons. I mean, the possibility has existed, as I have said many times over the years. There have been attempts to do this. They always fall through for reasons that are not always clear to me.
yeah.
And now I know that I'm at the point where we do 9 of these. We do 9 of these in 12 months, and I can't do any more. So I am not. I might show up at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, as I have in the past, to present something, uh, or some other one-off or something. But as far as a 7 to 10 day uh, festival, that is not going to happen in New York. So my advice to people is go to one of the other ones in the East Coast. Go to Philadelphia, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, as a number of people.
Sorry.
Somebody's being bad. As a number of people who
No.
what?
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, somebody's being bad. Who is being bad?
Oh my God, Tyrion.
Oh,
Stop.
this is a whole other critter now. Okay. Oh,
Don't
this is the
bother
one
your
who was
father.
parading in front of the camera a while ago.
They're just all over the. Yeah, that's Tyrion. He's staying with us until my friend gets into permanent to his new housing. So
Okay.
he's like a hurricane.
Okay. Well, I hope he doesn't tear up anything or disconnect you or something. So.
Yeah, hopefully not. Sorry.
Anyway, that was it's
Sorry.
okay. I was going off on why I don't expect to see me in New York, but also just suggesting that the folks who are in New York, a lot of people came to the Noir City Philadelphia Festival from New York last November, and I suggest doing that. We have the
There's
show in
Boston
Boston.
too.
There's Boston, there's Philadelphia, there's Chicago. But I know New Yorkers feel that they are the center of the universe and that there should be a Noir City Festival there if that's the case, but that is not going to happen. Okay.
Okay. This question is from Tiger, who sends us greetings from Granada, Spain.
Okay.
Joan Fontaine is my favorite actress. After reading her autobiography and watching all her interviews on the internet multiple times, I fell completely in love with her charming personality. That must have happened several times to you, Eddie, while you were interviewing actresses like Jane Greer, Marsha Hunt, etc. My question to Eddie is, have you ever interviewed or tried to interview Joan Fontaine while she was alive? If the answer is yes, would you care to share any story? And what's your opinion on her as an actress? And also, he said, hope to see you in Paris in June, but
that was so that's an old question.
That's an old question.
Or we're coming all the way around full circle because now we're reigniting the talks about doing some stuff in Paris. So we'll see. The answer is yes. We did try to get Joan Fontaine, who was living in down the coast here in Carmel, California. We did try to get her to come up and do a Noir City show one time, but she was no longer making appearances. I did not ever interview her, but my colleague Foster Hirsch, I believe, did several times, and I guess it could be said that he was friends with Joan Fontaine. So it always was kind of my fantasy that I would somehow program like Suspicion and The Dark Mirror as a double bill at Noir City and invite Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine. And I'd broker the reunion of the sisters who hadn't spoken in decades. That's the kind of nonsense that you think about when you're putting film festivals together. Yeah, this would be fun. We'll reunite the sisters, which is, of course, is absurd because you never really invite two actresses to the same event, let alone sisters who haven't spoken to each other for decades. So anyway, my opinion of her as an actress is I like Joan Fontaine when she's bad more than I like her when she's good. Like meaning like in noir stuff, she's a bit treacly and Kiss the Blood Off My Hands with Burt Lancaster. I don't really like, but as Ivy have you seen Ivy?
Yeah, I love her so much.
She is so fantastic in that.
This is such a great performance.
And it's not much of a movie, but Born to Be Bad.
Oh, she's great in Born to Be Bad.
She's just fantastic. She keeps that whole thing going because she's just so, it's like, it's an Eve Harrington kind of role. Yeah. She wants everybody to think she's just adorable, but she's just the most conniving bitch ever.
Yeah. And by the way, Carol Burnett has a really funny parody of that. You can look it up.
Born to Be Bad, yeah, which is fabulous because that was not a particularly well-known film, but God bless Carol Burnett. She knew her movies,
Yeah, she was a huge film geek. Yeah.
Yeah. I was so envious of my colleague Dave Karger on TCM got to host Carol Burnett for a whole run of things where they were showing the movies that her parodies were based on, and then she was talking about how they created the parodies and all this, and then they would show her parody. So like the Mildred Fierce one and all that, it's so fantastic. Yeah. I'll bet they did Born to Be Bad. I didn't see them all, but they probably did Born to Be Bad.
Yeah, because it's great. And it was funny when I saw it, because my first thought was that film was kind of obscure. Like, it was so cool that she picked that film. Because it's also a very fun film, so it's really right for the, parodying that character in particular.
Because it's a nasty soap opera, which are the best kinds of things to make fun of. And
yeah. But I really enjoyed that movie when we screened it. I just was like, oh my God.
And you'll remember that I made a point of showing the original ending.
Yes.
which kudos to George Feltenstein at Warner Brothers, who found that ending and inserted it as a special bonus on the Blu-ray or the DVD, whatever it was, when they released it. And then I was able to convince Warner Brothers to let us show that bonus ending when we did the movie, and it's fantastic. The idea that they would cut that off is ludicrous. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish it could just be restored and be the official correct ending of the movie, but oh well. At
Oh,
least it survives. Okay.
okay. Four.
Several years ago, this is from Conrad. Several years ago, Touch of Evil was released in a special edition Blu-ray package in both 185 and a 137 aspect ratio. Do you have a preference for one aspect ratio compared to the other for this particular film? And do any considerations of how the image is presented with the lighting and the framing composition of what to leave in and what to leave out, does that affect your tastes? Well, Conrad, my preference for the aspect ratio is the one in which the director shot the film. I mean, that's it. I mean, generally, I'm going to admit that I don't know all the facts behind this, even though it's a famous film. I don't really understand. Some of my projectionist friends would school me on this, but I'm assuming that by the time Orson Welles made this movie 185, I'm not going to say it had become the standard, but it was the prestige, framing for a film. And it was because 137 was basically your television set, you know.
Yeah.
And so they were making wider screen pictures to say you can't see this on TV. But for many years there, the smart filmmakers would not put important information on the sides of the frame because they knew when it went to TV that was going to be lost, right? And we just had this happen. Pardon me, I'm all knotted up in my cord over here. We just had this happen at the Noir City Festival because we showed The Killing, right? Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, which is shot in 185, but the theater did not have two 185 lenses for their projectors. They only had one. So, am I right? No, I'm wrong about this. I'm sorry. It was shot in 166, I believe. It was the aspect ratio. See, it was midway between the 137 and the 185. If anybody cares about all this stuff at all, but they didn't have two of those. They didn't have two 166 lenses, so it was shown in 137, and nobody noticed. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody who hadn't seen the film before would notice because Kubrick kind of smartly kept all of his action in the middle of the frame. I mean, it had an effect when in the horse racing scenes because those are so dynamic because of the wider screen, and when you're following the horses running, it's really a great effect. But that's kind of the only thing that really got lost. Anyway, but that's the I don't have a I don't care as long as the movie is shown in the correct aspect ratio. It's when they show it in the wrong aspect ratio that I pull my hair out. That's it.
That's it.
Too much about aspect ratios, maybe.
Oh God, when I worked in the video store days, when they finally started letterboxing stuff,
Yeah.
how many times I had to explain to customers why there were
Why the
black
screen
bands.
shrunk like that? Why
Yeah,
why are these black bars at the top and bottom of my picture?
and like yeah, and it was great because at one point, conveniently, one of the video distributors put out like an aspect ratio poster, and it was so great to have, so that people could see
Yeah.
what pan and scan was and what the difference
Yes,
was and
yes.
what this is why we're. But it was great to finally get this damn poster because it was a visual aid.
Right.
Of saying, okay, this is what you're missing. Because like if you watch something like like John Carpenter's Halloween, he plants a lot of times Michael Myers in the far edges of the
Right.
screen. So you
Right.
really do, it is really different to see that the first time, because I saw that in a theater for the first time, because it was like playing. And yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference. And so anyway,
It is.
but
I
that was a
mean, now,
huge
of course,
revolution. Like people
yeah,
have widescreen TVs now and stuff, but when letterboxing first came out, it was like a huge like learning curve to teach people about aspect
yeah.
ratios.
I have to tell you a funny, I probably have told you this story before, but I would like to share this again. We were showing the movie I Died a Thousand Times at the Egyptian Theater 15, 20 years ago. And we'd gotten this beautiful Technicolor print, right? From, I guess it was from Universal. And they've discovered, uh, I don't know why it wasn't inspected earlier, but they discovered that it was used to make a pan and scan version for television, which, if people don't know, they would take the widescreen format and they would use grease pencils and stuff on the film to say, print this part of it and then this part of it to get the information in the center of the frame for a television broadcast of it, right? So they would frequently chop up the widescreen image or have what they did is pan and scan so that it would track around in the frame. And the grease pencil marks were all over the print. And they were literally cleaning the print as it was being fed into the projector.
Oh
There was like
wow.
acetone and a thing, and they had like two other guys besides the projectionist who were cleaning the film as it was feeding into the projector.
My God.
That was pretty crazy. Okay. Um, who is reading the
I
next?
think it's me now. So this
Okay.
is because I'm doing the odd ones. This
Okay.
is our friend Kathleen from Chicago. What Noir
Yes.
films? What Noir films have had the most depressing endings? I'm talking pitch black endings that offer not a flicker of hope or redemption for any of the characters and that leave you shell shocked as you emerge from the theater. If you could discuss Noirs from the classic period as well as Noirs that came later, that would be great. My personal nominations for Noirs with the most bummer endings would be Scarlet Street for classic period noir and The Friends of Eddie Coyle for the neo-noir era. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Bonus question: can a film have a happy ending, an ending where things turn out well for the sympathetic characters and badly for the villains, and still be a genuine noir?
Okay. Okay, Kathleen. A lot of good questions in there. Um, Interesting. The reason there aren't a lot of pitch black endings in classic film noir, although Scarlet Street is pretty great as far
Mm-hmm.
as that goes, and it is because most of the noir films, the bad things happen to people who've gone bad.
Mm-hmm.
So you have less empathy with them when their demise comes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood in that era wanted to protect the innocent characters. Like, it's not going to end horribly if they don't deserve it, right? And that was kind of, it was interesting that whereas Scarlet Street had that really bleak ending, but Edward G. Robinson still lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
He
wrong
got away
man,
with murder.
he got away with murder, yeah, which is a real rarity. But the woman in the window had, well, for people who haven't seen the woman in the window, don't listen to the rest of this. Cover your ears. People for a long time thought that it's all a dream thing was enforced on the film by Hollywood, when in fact that was the way it was structured all along. And even Fritz Lang said, I didn't see the reason to punish this innocent guy,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I don't know. Blast of Silence, you see, is a pretty bleak ending, but the guy's a hitman. So how
Yeah.
bad do I really feel at the end of the film? Not bad. You're just aware that it's as dismal an ending as possible. Um, and Crisscross is a pretty bleak ending, although I feel bad for Yvonne DiCarlo, not so bad for Burt Lancaster because he's such a dimwit in that film that
I'm not so
um
sympathetic with her because she betrayed Dan Duryea,
oh,
so she can die.
yeah. Anyway, but and I agree with Kathleen's assessment of the Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is yeah, that's a pretty depressing ending.
Oh yeah, yeah.
um, but I have to say, the two endings on films of all time for me, one of them you could almost call a noir, because they could be horror films, they could just be psychological dramas, and it's very interesting because Alicia Malone and I are showing one of these films on TCM in April or May. I think in May. Um, okay, Nick Rogue's "Don't Look Now" has an
Mm-hmm.
ending that is just jaw dropping
Such a great movie.
in how it makes you how you feel different about the world when you leave the theater, which is something that Kathleen kind of said here that was interesting. Where you when you're shell shocked when you leave the theater. Okay, "Don't Look Now." I was shell shocked when I left the theater. And have you seen The Vanishing?
No, I have
The
not.
Belgian film The
I have
Vanishing?
not. I have purposely not seen it because I know what the ending is and I don't want to watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Well, it's too bad. It's too bad that you know
Because I'm
what
a
the ending is.
child.
But that movie is those are the two most disturbing movies to me, with just sickening endings that just
Yeah.
kind of make you sick to your stomach without being in any way a horror film or gory or anything. It's just like, oh my God. And it's interesting that they're both, the reason they're so powerful to me is that both films are about uh, men who on an obsessive search for the truth, where something, they believe something is hidden from them, and they obsessively pursue this truth, and then they get to the end of the search and it's nothing like what they thought it was going to be, and it has devastating impact. And it's because you're so empathizing with their need to know the truth that that just makes it 50 times worse when the end happens. So anyway,
Yeah. And
there
I think
you go.
for me, I mean, honestly, one of the, to me, the most depressing endings in the classic period, or it's one that really affected me, is still Pitfall and what happens
Yeah.
to Elizabeth Scott's character because it's so friggin' unfair. And she's the one that takes the brunt of everything after having been really horribly harassed and all the stuff throughout the film. And for me, that's one that like it really affected me a lot because it was so truthful, you
But it's
know.
so that's so interesting to me, Anne, because you're bringing all of that to the movie, because the movie doesn't do any of it. The movie just dismisses her, which as
Like
smart
she's a
filmmaker,
Kleenex.
yeah, as smart as a filmmaker as Andre de Toth is, I'm going to assume that that was intentional on his part. Like
Yeah.
she's just like sucked into the bowels of the justice system and gone. As soon as she walks through that door, she's gone. There's no, she doesn't get a moment. She doesn't get anything. It's like Marie Windsor in The Narrow Margin. When she's gone, she's gone. She doesn't get another shot. She doesn't get you don't get to see her body on a stretcher or anything. She's just gone, which is cold, which I think was the intention that De Toth wanted in Pitfall.
I think it was intentional because it's just very reflective of the reality of that situation where he's had his adventure and everything turned out fine with him, and she's just like her life's
Yeah.
destroyed. No,
Yeah.
I think that was intentional. I really do the way he did that too because that's kind of it's very truthful. So that's a film that, just like I said, that ending's just always really stayed with me. And then I think for modern stuff, I was thinking about kind of different things. I'm not sure if I have one. I mean, the Eddie Coyle thing is definitely up there. I
Yeah.
think it was, what was the film that was set in New Zealand about the two girls? It's a true
Oh,
story.
Heavenly Creatures.
Heavenly Creatures, that film really affected me too. I was just like stunned when I got out of there. Obviously, I just began with the fact that Fire Walk with Me, I literally cried for like
Yeah.
30 minutes in my car.
Yeah,
Couldn't do anything.
I have to revisit
So,
that film. I have to revisit that film. I haven't seen that in years. I know they had the obsession with James Mason, and it was, yeah, that was pretty intense. The um I'm trying to think of what was a devastating ending
yeah.
is In a Lonely Place.
Okay.
Even though nobody
Yeah.
dies or anything, um it's like Pitfall. It's like this is so adult and this feels so real. And it's like it's the rare movie that hits you where like Bogart's character in a Lonely Place has completely ruined his best chance at having a love in his life that would make the rest of his life worth living. He
Yeah.
blows it. It all blows up in his face. He's responsible for making it blow up, and that's the end. And you know, he just walks away, and it's like, wow, that's depressing.
Yeah, yeah, it is really well done, but it's also sort of like that's a really interesting film in a lot of ways. Like I love the masseuse in that, and she's like, he's a problem. He's
Oh yeah,
fucking dangerous. Pardon my French. She doesn't do the F bomb.
she doesn't say that in the
She doesn't
movie.
say that, but I mean, because it's that experience of knowing, no, this guy is it because, and he's not dangerous like he's a gangster or something. He's dangerous. He's someone who's prone to domestic abuse.
Yeah,
I
he's too
mean,
volatile.
he's
Yeah,
too volatile, and that's really, really dangerous. And she's sort of doing that kind of belief it'll be different with her.
yeah,
And it's ultimately not, and that's something you didn't really see and stuff. That
right.
idea of like it doesn't matter that she's a good influence on him and that kind of things. He has an anger problem, and
Yes,
that's not just
yes,
going to change because
yes.
she loves him. So I think it's very, I mean, that wasn't something that was really explored that much in films then either.
And
Like
one,
Carousel, it was
yeah,
horrible.
and one last comment I want to make regarding something that Kathleen said in this question. At the end, she says, her bonus question: can a film have a happy ending, an ending where everything turns out well for the sympathetic characters and badly for the villains, and still be a genuine noir?
Yeah.
I think it's very important to uh, quantify this term genuine noir, because film noir was an artistic movement that was happening at a time when there was an enforced code that dictated the way movies, what you could put in movies and how the movies could end. So because of that, I don't think you can rightly say this movie is not a genuine noir because it doesn't have a bad ending, when that was out of the control of the people making the film nine
Yeah.
times out of 10. I mean, there are those exceptions like we just discussed, like Scarlet Street. How in the hell did that happen? How did they get around the production code with that movie?
I mean, I think
Or
he did a good job because the thing about the end of Scarlet Street, though, is he is being punished. It may not have been the law, but I think he's such a mess. What he is at the end, I guess that appeased the.
clearly, and that was an argument that somebody very persuasively made, and an argument that was not made persuasively in many other movies,
Yeah,
where it was like, no, 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 we're just going to have the police come in and take the guy off to jail.
yeah.
That's the way this is going to end. Um, anyway, that's just a point I wanted to make. Like, I don't really think you can say something isn't a genuine noir just because it had the tacked on and forced happy ending.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like
because a lot of people really, I mean, I know, I think we've probably talked about this before, like on Dangerous Ground, you know, they changed the ending for that. And I personally prefer the ending. I don't care. I
that
know
he goes back and
that
there.
he goes back to her. Yeah, I like that he goes back. I'm glad they made him change it. And I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah.
a
No,
lot of people
it's
feel very
amazing to me how
differently
many
about it.
people I know, but it's amazing how many people people watch these movies for different reasons now.
Yeah.
You know, there because and I'm old enough to have lived through all these different things where film noir at one point meant people were drawn to it because they were the films that were pushing the hardest against the envelope to break the production code. And then people, you know, yay, we loved it because it had a bad ending. Now a lot of people watch these films as comfort food. And when I go on TCM and say, yeah, they wrecked Tomorrow Is Another Day because the focus groups didn't want Steve Cochran to die at the end. And I have said many times, like, if Steve Cochran dies at the end of Tomorrow Is Another Day, it's an all-time classic film
Yeah.
noir. The fact that he doesn't die,
Yeah.
but I show it on TCM and I get all kinds of emails from people saying, I like this ending. Why do you want it to end badly? This is better, you know, and it's like, whatever, you know, it doesn't really, I've given up trying to think that the ending of a film somehow determines its noirness or not.
Yeah, because like you said, that was very much out of the control of the people that were
Yeah.
making making
That's
films.
why I
So
distinguish. I always say this is hardcore noir.
yeah.
And when I say that, that usually means it's going to end badly in defiance of the production code or anything else. This is hard, like Scarlet Street is hardcore noir,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Or
Um,
Double Indemnity, which definitely followed the code. You know, everybody got
oh
what
yeah,
they deserve in that film, but that end with Edward G. Robinson is just like it's heartbreaking though.
it's
That's
perfection. It is
yeah,
perfection.
it really
And they didn't
yeah,
have to show Fred McMurray getting his punishment. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
okay, I'm going
Oh,
to read the next one. This is from Bill in Pleasant Hill, California. Bill's not too far away from me. Uh, the actor, Robert Mitchum. The film, The Locket. The nagging enigma.
okay,
Bill,
spoilers, people. If you haven't seen The Locket,
okay,
spoilers.
if you haven't seen The Locket, there's going to be a spoiler here. Okay.
Yeah.
Why the hell did Norman Clyde jump out the skyscraper window? It seems out of character for him, unnecessary for the plot, story progression, and became the epitome of overkill. Poor pun intended. He'd fulfilled his purpose as victim number one, harbinger of doom for victim husband number two, and he could have just walked out of the office and continued to paint crappy paintings. Bill finds this the throbbing sore thumb in an otherwise engrossing film. And he says, "Please enlighten me so I can move on." If this is holding you in place, Bill,
No, it has
the
been like a
fact that
year
Robert
since.
Mitchum's character kills himself in the Locket. I'm glad your life. I'm glad these are the horrible crises in your life. Um, he jumps out the window because it's a whole lot more dramatic than just walking out of the office and continuing to paint crappy paintings. I mean, where is the crushing drama of this woman destroying lives if they just walk on and do, you know, Bill, tell me you're not confusing Robert Mitchum with the character he was playing in this movie. Whereas we know Robert Mitchum would never kill. Well, Robert Mitchum did, in fact, kill himself by drinking and smoking his entire life, right? Just like,
Yeah,
in a sense,
it's
David
it's
Lynch
a
killed
long way.
himself with those cigarettes. It's just taken the long way. Uh, but, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I actually think it's one of the good things in the movie. I particularly like the way it's handled, you know, with you just hear the crash of the glass. Um, if there's anything that's weird about it, it's that he seems so calm up to that
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
right? I mean, he doesn't act like a man who's about to kill himself, or else he just acts like a doomed man resigned to killing himself, so he doesn't show any emotional there's no emotional tells there. Anyway, uh, interesting. I'm hoping that you have been released from your agony now, Bill, and you can get on
I'm
with
sorry it took a
enjoying
year
your
before
life.
we got to your question. You've just been in limbo.
Yeah, and it's been a year. Okay, very good. Okay.
Oh, okay. This is from our friend Joe from Suffolk County, New
Oh
York.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, Norma Barzman, a blacklisted screenwriter, died on December 17th, 2023 at 103. The New York Times obituary told the story of her expatriation to London, Paris, and Provence from 1949 through 1976. She heroically managed to live a full and fascinating life without bitterness in the face of a terrible injustice. Before being blacklisted, Ms. Barman wrote the treatment for The Locket. Please share some thoughts on Ms. Barzman and The Locket.
Oh well, you did that again. You managed to tie them together. Um, I'm happy to say that before Norma passed away, she granted an interview for a documentary film that I am making. She was 103 at the time, and I do just want to point out that her husband Ben Barsman was a hell of a screenwriter as well. And yeah, Norma Barsman worked with Sheridan Gibney, was the original writer, I think, on The Locket, with the story. I believe, or no, or it was the other way around. I think Norma Barsman is the one who came up with the original story because she knew a girl in her youth that was very similar, who did the same kind of thing, who had stolen something, and it haunted her. And they met her on a vacation. She and Ben Barsman met her someplace, and I'm blowing this story, but she knew the woman that she based the story on, and a lot of it came out of Norma, uh, like many people in Hollywood at that time, was going through analysis.
Yeah.
And I think that you can really feel that in the story, that so much of it is part of that trend in Hollywood at the time towards psychoanalysis and repressed memory and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I know about Norma. But yeah, she was great. Lived to a ripe old age, man. When you get to be
It's
103,
pretty amazing.
astounding. And I love The Locket. I like it. I like its interlocking narrative,
Yeah,
flashback within flashback within flashback. It's fun to watch it multiple times and see and like trace the breadcrumbs in the story to see like who's telling this now. This is somebody, these characters are emerging in somebody else's flashback, and then they take over the story. It's like the baton is being passed between these characters.
I really want to watch that again. I really enjoyed it when we screened it. That was a really good movie.
Yeah,
I need
and
to watch it again.
beautifully photographed,
Oh yeah,
and Lorraine Day is really good in that
she's
film.
very good in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, this is John from Tampa. He says, "What I find fascinating, oh my God, are discussions on whether films are noir. What films you think are noir? What films do you think are noir, and you get the most pushback from others that say they are not, and the reverse. You think they are not, and yet others swear they are noir. Oh my God. Well, as we say, and if I had, you know, 50 cents, let's say, for
yeah.
every noir or not I get asked, I could retire. Um, but do I know like which ones do I get the most pushback from others that it's not a noir? Um, that's interesting because I don't know if I have any controversial takes on this. I mean, there are ones like in my top five, like noir films, there are two of them that people are like, really? That's film noir? Which are In a Lonely Place and Sunset Boulevard, right? Which
Yeah.
are they're showbiz movies. They're movies about Hollywood. that were made in the noir era, but in many cases, people don't really immediately think of them as being film noir. Do you have any?
Yeah, mine is the one, oh, what's it called? It's the one, oh God, it's Clifford Odets wrote the
Clash
script.
by Night.
Yeah,
Clash by Night, right?
Clash
With
by
Barbara
Night.
Stanwyck.
Yeah, I hate Clifford Odets so much. I just want to tell you the power of Barbara Stanwyck, that she was able to have that incredible performance in that movie. But it's not a noir. I mean, people try and say it's a noir, and it's not.
That's funny. I just wrote the script for it because I'm showing it on Noir Alley.
Okay.
But
Well,
but I but I do but your point is well taken, because I do say, is this really a film noir? I mean,
yeah,
I think it gets considered as a film noir solely because Fritz Lang directed it.
yeah, and Barbara Stanwyck's in it. I think that
Well, but
combination
Barbara
too.
Stanwyck made a lot of movies,
Yeah,
that, come on, East Side, West
she
Side.
made everything.
She
She was
she did. She
incredibly
made
talented. She
everything.
made
So,
everything, every single thing.
yeah,
She
she
would have
made
just
more great noir films than just about any other actress, but
But she
she
really
made all
loved the
kinds of great
westerns she
films.
did. I mean, she was
Of
very into the
course, of
westerns because
course.
that was like those were really her favorite.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think if she could have made a western every week, she would have been happy.
yeah, yeah. But
Oh,
anyway, I forget what I was saying, but
oh, so you're showing that. It'll be
oh
interesting
yeah,
to
we're showing Clash
yeah.
by Night, and another one that another Clifford Odets one is The Big Knife, which a lot
Awesome.
of people think of as being a film noir, and it's just a really really verbose.
I do not
Again,
like that movie.
it's a movie about show business,
Yeah,
but you can't totally dismiss Clifford Odets because he did work on Sweet Smell of Success,
which is a great,
which is
great movie. Which
fabulous,
is a
fabulous.
fantastic movie. Absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
Um, okay, so I'm already seeing that the next question is kind of linked to that
Yes.
last one.
It,
So let's just move forward, because Arlene here is asking about a lot of films, whether they're film
Nor and
noir
I.
or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
Oh,
do you
these some of these crack me up. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, let's just do one at a time. Do you think Oppenheimer is film noir? I do, has most of all of the elements.
I I'm not seeing that, Arlene. I'm not gonna. I do not think that Oppenheimer is a film noir, but
Right.
I wish you had included what you felt those elements
Well, let's make
were.
sure that I didn't trim that out. So you talk about the next one, and I'll check her original question just in
Well,
case
this
she
is
gave
kind of
details.
interesting because to me, this one is a little more understandable than Oppenheimer. I mean, so how would you describe Oppenheimer if you were writing it up for TV Guide? You would say,
It's a
you know,
biopic.
well, biopic, but um, you know, scientist has guilty conscience over developing world's most powerful weapon.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is, right?
yeah,
And that uh, there's a little bit of betrayal and deceit, a little bit
yeah.
that comes into the story, but overall, this is just a biographical depiction of a guy entrusted by the government to develop the most fearsome weapon in the history of mankind.
Yes.
It's a little too big a subject to me to be a film noir. But now, on the other hand, here's another historical movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. Isn't that noir? Arlene asks. And I would say um, it has more noir elements than Oppenheimer. And it becomes, here's the problem that I had with Killers of the Flower Moon. It kind of starts out as a historical noir film, and then it becomes a police procedural. I
Okay.
mean, once Jesse Plemons shows up representing the FBI, it kind of becomes a police procedural that is kind of surprising, because while it feels of its time, like, wow, we're watching one of the first investigations by the FBI into some kind of criminal conspiracy, I feel like the audience watching the film is so far ahead of that story that it really slows down the plot. And I just felt like the last part of Killers of the Flower Moon was, it just didn't matter. The first part was very compelling.
Yeah.
But it just didn't last once it turned into a procedural. And then she asked about the triplets of, well, it says here the triplets
It
of
was a
Bellevue.
Belleville. Yeah.
It's yeah, triplets of Belleville, and which I've never seen, which is an animated film. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
Is it noir?
I don't remember it being noir at all.
Okay,
But
all right. But you're
maybe I'm
telling me it's so
misremembering.
good. I need to see it.
Oh, it's incredible. I saw it in the theater. The animation is great, and it's
It's like
just
20 years ago, right? It came out 20 years ago or so.
God. I think I'm
I seem to,
I was
yeah.
still living in Seattle, and I may have still been married.
Okay,
So,
well, I'm gonna have to just skip over that. And then she asked, "Do you think the Rocking Horse winner qualifies? Do you know this
oh,
movie,
Ted
right?"
showed it to me. Ted was like telling me, "You've got to see this movie." Oh my God, that film broke my heart.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty.
such a
It's pretty strong. It's
God.
pretty strong.
It's amazing.
D.H. Lawrence short story adapted. I think it's been done a number of times. Um, and what was your okay? Heartbreaking, and it's a well, it starts out as a like a kid's story.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about it because the tone really starts out as kind of like it's like a fable, right? Or feels like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like, wait, it's kind of like it's because um, no, she didn't expand on the elements.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay, I didn't think I
But
cut
the
anything
the,
that
the Rocking
important.
Horse
Sorry, guys.
winner is a
Oh my
little
God, I
um
mean, it's just
it's
because
like a fable, and it also has kind of a, is it a supernatural element? I mean,
yeah, it
it's
has a supernatural element to it, right?
because he rides the rocking horse, and then it's about a horrible household and this child growing up miserable, and he wants the best for his parents who don't have any money, and then the horse starts picking winners at his rocking horse. When he rides it, he gets like, he picks the winners, but this doesn't mean everybody's going to live happily ever after.
Because he's getting there's a physical cost to him as this is going on, and good parents
Yeah.
who
So the
put their
kid,
children
yeah,
first, things would go differently. So
in the end, the kid kind of sacrifices himself trying to make things right for his parents, and
yeah, and
right, isn't that kind of the point? Yeah.
yeah, and the thing about that too is, I mean, that's such a metaphor for the way that children do take on responsibility for things that are not their responsibility emotionally. When they're kids, if there's problems
Well
in the
put. Yeah.
household, they'll blame themselves. I mean, this is how people develop different types of neuroses and things like that from it. I mean, that's a very, so it's one of those films I think that also shows childhood very well,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really from his perspective
Right.
and stuff.
And
And
it was made
yeah,
in England, and it was not long after, I think it was 1949 or something like that.
thanks. Yeah.
Not long after The Fallen Idol, which is another great
Oh, it's
British
such a great
film
film. I love
about
that movie.
childhood and children trying to grasp the adult world that's beyond their comprehension. That's a really strong
Fallen
movie.
Idol's amazing. Yeah, there's British Jews. There's some really good British films with kid characters, I have to
I would
say.
I would argue that I haven't done a scientific study on this, and there might be other examples. Maybe people listening can share some of theirs, but I would argue that Carol Reed, that 3 film thing he did, where he did The Fallen Idol, Odd Man Out, and The Third Man.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact order that they were made. I think that was the order. I think it might have been Odd Man Out, then Fallen Idol, then The Third Man. Maybe the best 3 consecutive films any director has ever made. I mean, those are
That's a
three
pretty impressive three
extraordinarily
films.
great
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
in a row. In a
Yeah.
row.
Yeah.
We'll see if somebody can top that.
All right, I could. I mean,
I think Stanley
definitely. Yeah.
Kubrick had a few films in a row there that were pretty, but he's more controversial. The
Yeah, because
Carol
I was
Reed,
gonna say Almodovar definitely had in his early days. There's like a spate of 3 films of his that I would consider, and then you know, Jensen, of course, I'm gonna throw in there too. But those films are so not well known that it's kind of hard to
oh well, but
argue
I
with.
have to I have
Yeah.
to tidy up here
Yeah.
before with Arlene. She says her classic favorites are The Clouded Yellow with Trevor Howard and Gene Simmons, and what's the other one? Hold on.
Paul
Call
Northside
Northside
777.
777. Please air them if you can. I would happily air both of those movies if I could get the rights clearance on those.
What's The Clouded Yellow? I've never heard of that.
The Clouded Yellow is like a On the Lam movie. It's and Gene Simmons is pretty great. I haven't seen it in a long time, but my memory of it is that it is very good. She also, I think she made. Have you ever seen So Long at the Fair?
No.
That's also Gene Simmons. I think she made that one just before The Clouded Yellow.
Is So
These are
Long
the
at the Fair one of the Missing Husband movies?
correct.
Yeah.
Correct, which I almost showed last year at the Noir City Festivals, but we could not get a good copy of it. So,
In case people are wondering what I'm talking about with the Missing Husband, is I can't remember who did it first, but it's a repeating plot line where a woman's husband disappears, and then when she goes to talk to authorities, everybody said, "Well, you didn't have a husband.
didn't have a husband. Yeah.
You know, there's nobody else here. What are you talking about?" And it's I can't remember who did it first, but it's been like you've seen that in multiple things.
Oh yeah, that's that. And then the film that we were talking about earlier, The Vanishing, is a play on that as well. Where but nobody doubts the existence of the woman who disappears. There's no explanation as to whatever happened.
What happened to her? Yeah.
Okay. Last one. And this is Joe again. Joe.
Yeah, I don't normally
County.
put 2 in, but his other question matched up with the other questions, and so I kind of wanted to keep them together.
This is kind of amusing.
This is a fun one.
Yeah, nice going, Joe. This isn't really a question. This is just Joe having fun. Just suppose you're planning a 4-day, 3-night winter cabin noir getaway. I love the way he's so specific. A 4-day, 3-night winter cabin noir getaway. Which film noir would you choose to inhabit? Storm Fear. And then what's cute is Joe describes each of these as though it were a enticement to a vacation. Noir group therapy with the healthy catharsis of shared family secrets. Harmonica music and snowshoeing, no extra charge. Kids under 13 stay free.
That's another good kid movie.
I'm just going to say, in no way can Storm Fear be called a good anything movie. I mean, it's just not good. It's just not a good film.
Yeah, no, I just thought.
Lee Grant is good. Lee Grant is good in it.
Yeah,
and I'm going to tell you that even your idol Dan Duryea is really not very good.
No, it's not one of his better films, and it's not like because it's not that. Because there's another film they did. I never remember the film where he's in a wheelchair, where he is pushing it all the way to the edge, but it totally works in that film.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that one. But in this one, he's just sick and he's sneezing and he's,
it was like,
it's not a particularly good film.
No, okay. I mean, I only watched it because Dan Duryea was in it.
There's actually some pretty good actors in it.
It's a good cast. And didn't Cornell Wilde, didn't he actually direct it?
Cornell Wilde directed it, which is part of what's wrong with it, I'm sorry to say. But the Lee Grant is the best thing in by far the best thing in the movie.
Yeah, she's great. She's really great.
Which credit to Cornell Woolrich, he employed her when she was blacklisted.
Oh.
because it's his independent film. He made it, and
Ah,
the studios did not have control over his casting. And he put Lee Grant in the film when she was still officially on the blacklist. So
good
more
for
power
him.
to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Another choice, On Dangerous Ground. Join the posse for an exhilarating cardio workout. Many guests return for more, meaning, haha, see, he comes back at the end,
Yeah.
right? Or Nightfall. Your hunting buddy is murdered, but Anne Bancroft is there to offer support. Okay, so one thing I'm going to suggest here, though, Nightfall. Joe, you were promising a winter cabin noir getaway. I would be very upset if I signed up and the cabin ended up being that shack at the end of Nightfall where there's nothing, no furniture, nothing. It's just literally an equipment shack, is what they're trying to sell you as your noir getaway.
Yeah, I would definitely have words with the list people who listed that.
Yeah, because when your hunting buddy gets murdered, you're not really in a cabin. You're out by the side of the stream there,
Yeah.
cooking your fish with cornmeal, as I recall. Isn't that the
Yeah,
thing?
I
Is that
think so.
that's the
Yeah.
cornmeal that makes it good, fried up with a little cornmeal, blah blah blah. I mean, it's kind of idyllic up until Brian
The,
Keith and Rudy
the,
Bond show up and start killing people. But
it's really never good when Brian Keith shows up.
yeah, so I guess the answer it would have to be On Dangerous Ground,
Yeah.
because you get. I would assume Ida Lupino is your caretaker, housekeeper.
Do we get Ida Lupino? Because then definitely I'm picking that one.
Yeah, if Ida
If we get Ida
Lupino,
Lupino, I'm doing On Dangerous Grounds.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And she's blind, so she won't see that I'm stealing a lot of souvenirs and things. As I take full advantage of my stay.
Plus, there's Ward Bond and Olive Carey.
And there must be some other snowbound noir films that we're not thinking of right now.
Yeah, that's what I felt too when I saw this. I feel like I'm really like missing something really obvious.
Well,
This
it
in
could be
Snowbound.
Day of the Outlaw, right, with the Andre Dutos noir western. That's snowbound.
Okay.
I would not want it to be the Hateful Eight. I don't want to be snowbound with those people anytime soon. So okay, we'll stick with On Dangerous Ground. That's the
Okay.
one.
That's the one. Well, yeah, it's Ida, so obviously.
It's kind of a no-brainer when you really get down to it.
Yeah. Okay, so how are you? Anything anything exciting that we should talk about that's coming up?
Yes, it's actually what's coming up is that I have to go downstairs and cook dinner because it's my wife's birthday.
Say happy birthday for me and from all the crowd from the
I
peanut
sure will.
gallery.
I sure will.
Very
And
nice.
do we know when this is going to be broadcast?
This might be broadcast the night before North City, Seattle,
Okay, very good.
if I can get it together. I'm going to the vet tomorrow, so it's going to depend.
That
Hopefully,
all depends.
it depends on what happens with
As
the vet.
usual, it depends on the health of our cats.
Yeah,
Everything depends
but
on
ideally, this is going to air the night before, which is why I wanted to do Saturday, so I could edit tomorrow. So
Okay.
hopefully, the night before North City, Seattle opens.
Very good. Okay. And I'll give your regards to Seattle when I'm there.
Please do.
Will do. And we'll do this again very soon.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thanks
everybody.
everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.